I do not feel safe. Hey, it's me, TB, and I'm here to give you my book haul for summer. Yeah, summer. As you can see, I bought a lot of new books. So I'm just gonna start from the top and I guess work our way down to the very bottom that you can't see. So first we have Red Sister by Mark Lawrence. I've heard a lot of good things about this series. Like, I don't think I've heard one bad review of it. So that's what made me want to get it, and the premise sounded really cool. And I was down for like fantasy shit. So I mean, basically an orphan gets brought into like this group of like girls that are raised as assassins. And you know, what more do you need besides that? I was already sold. So that's Red Sister by Mark Lawrence. Next up is a book from my childhood. I read this in 6th grade as like a class book for my world history class. Like world history. We didn't go that far, that deep, because you know it was like 6th grade. But the book is An Incantation by Alice Hoffman. From what I remember about this book, it's about this girl whose family, I think, is the victim of the Spanish Inquisition in Spain in like the 15th century. And basically she is a Jew that's being persecuted because it's like the Spanish Inquisition. And I think her family was one of the Jews that tried to like convert, but at this point in time, conversion made you much more likely to be executed. So it's a book all about her and her family's struggles during that time period. This book is like less than 200 pages, so I doubt it's gonna take me that long to read. I just realized it's been close to 10 years since I last read this. It'll be 10 years after this coming May that I've read this. So yeah, I remember nothing besides like the bare minimum of the plot here. Next up is a work in translation, and is Frankenstein in Baghdad by Ahmed Sadawi, I'm pretty sure. And basically in this book, our main character is going around stitching together body parts that are around because of the U.S. sanctioned bombings, I'm pretty sure. And he is sewing them together so they like form a complete body. So the government in Baghdad will recognize the bodies as actual like human corpses, so they will bury them. Except one of the bodies that he has stitched back together goes missing, and then suddenly there are claims of like people being attacked by a monster, and he realizes that his monster has come to life. So yeah, it sounds really interesting. And I think I'm going to read this in October after I've read Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, just for like comparison's sake, because it's obvious this was inspired by it slightly. So yeah. And next up is The Dragon and Other Stories by Yevgeny Zanyatin. I know Yevgeny because he wrote the science fiction novel We, and I read that for my science fiction class, and I think it was one of my favorites that we read for that semester. It's basically a collection of his short stories featuring the dragon, obviously. It has like 15-ish stories in here. I'm pretty sure this is on my autumn TBR. I should probably remember that, but I fucking don't. I'm pretty sure it's on my list. I remember talking about it at some point. And I'm pretty sure I bought it fairly recently. So I'm counting it in my summer haul, even though I don't remember when I specifically bought it. But I bought it within summer at some point, so I'm counting it. And next up is a few book from the Oxford World Classic series. See, originally I was going to get one of them, then I realized that they look really nice together on a shelf, so I'm probably going to end up getting more of them just for aesthetics. And a lot of them are like books I wanted anyways, so it gives me an excuse to get the books, and I'll get like a set that looks very nice together on a shelf. So it works good for everyone, I guess. The first book I got in the Oxford World Classics was the Mabinogion. I'm not pronouncing that right, I know damn sure. And it's basically a collection of like Celtic mythology, Arthurian romance. Arthurian? It's for like King Arthur, that guy, yeah. And an intriguing interpretation of British history. Welsh medieval, yeah, it's like Welsh short stories, folktales, mythology, whatever you want to call it. It's this. This is like, I forget what's all in here, there's like a specific set of Welsh mythology, and they're called something, but I don't remember what they're called. And I'm pretty sure they're mostly in this. So yeah, we have the Song of Roland and other poems by of Charlemagne. I don't know if like this one or the other one had a specific author because they are a collection of like stuff. So the Song of Roland is basically one of the earliest fully published novels from like France in like the 12th century. You know, I kind of like French history and like I know like a bit of French, so I'm like a little bit biased towards it. And basically, like how Britain has like the stories of King Arthur. Apparently, France has like stories about King Charlemagne and like his knights at the time period, and Roland was one of those knights of Charlemagne. So there's like, whereas like King Arthur has like a lot of stories written about him and his people, King Charlemagne apparently has a lot of stories written about him and his knights. So I never knew that, so I thought it'd be very interesting to read about. Basically, like, I guess, like, poetry, basically, but in, like, a song form-ish. Basically, I'm really interested in it because it's, like, the first published novel, or, like, the earliest one we have left from France. That's really interesting. It is part of, like, a group of mythology I know nothing about, which is, like, Charlemagne and his knights, which is also very interesting. And I think for my world building for one of my fantasy worlds, it takes place in like the 12th century world. So it'd be nice to know a little bit about what 12th century Europe thought of like rules and morals and shit. So that'd be pretty cool. Next up is the Castle of Otranto. Yeah, we're gonna go with that by Horace Walpole. This is basically the first supernatural novel written in English. So it's like the precursor to everything we have now, which I think is really fucking cool. It is incredibly short. Like, okay, the whole book is just that, but then the actual like meat of the story is just like this middle part. The other parts are just like the index, the appendix, and like prefaces to the edition. Like the meat of the story is literally between pages 18 and 104. So it's like less than 100 pages. So this was written like the first supernatural novel in the 18th century. I know my centuries, I swear. And one of the most influential works of Gothic fiction. So I'm really interested to see like how fiction has changed since then. I don't think I've ever read anything from the 18th century. So this would be very interesting to read. Look at how nicely these look together. I'm mostly here for like it's like strip and then a little red strip at the top. Like that looks very aesthetically pleasing to me. So that's why I'm here for this. Like this is what I'm here for. This. So next up we have some books from the science fiction masterworks. I got these all like hella cheap. So I got like 4 of them because why not? And the cover art for all of them is so fucking good. And again they look so good on a shelf together. So I'm probably gonna get more. First up is The Island of Dr. Moreau by H.G. Wells. Never read anything by this author, but I know that The Island of Dr. Moreau is like a relatively big piece of science fiction, popularity-wise, so I should probably read it at some point if I want to like know a lot about science fiction. Like look at that cover art, isn't that so fucking good? It's basically in this book, a guy gets shipwrecked and he's rescued by this boat full of animals and like this weird guy. And the guy drops him and the animals off on this island that's controlled by Dr. Moreau. And then weird shit happens, is basically like the premise of this book. Next up is Do Androids Dream of the Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. And this novel that became the Blade Runner, apparently. Isn't that cover art so fucking good? There's this guy that is like an android assassin or something. Just went out killing robots and he gets assigned to kill this specific robot or this group of robots, and it goes from being really easy to really hard, and like shit goes down. I'm interested to read this because I know that this is also a really important piece of like science fiction. So yeah. Next up is The Man Who Fell to Earth by Walter Tevis. Again, cover art. Good. So this guy falls to Earth with the goal of, I think, helping his people. So he starts, using his own alien technology to, like, start doing patents to, like, gain a lot of money. Then people start getting suspicious of him and his intentions. So I assume it gets like hunted down, or like something happens. I'm really interested to see where it goes, because I mean, it's a very interesting premise. Like an alien crash lands and uses his technology to get money, because usually aliens crash land, they don't share their technology with us. So I'm interested to see where it goes. Next up is The Lathe of Heaven by Ursula K. Le Guin. Again, the world may never know. Who knows? And it's basically our main character, George, can alter reality with his dreams, which is fucking terrifying, and his psychiatrist starts to use this ability to his own advantage, and presumably shit goes down with that. I don't think I showed you how they look like together on a shelf, but like, look at that. It doesn't look so good. Next was probably the smallest book I got, and that is Islanders and the Fisher of Men by Yevgeny Zamyatin. This is basically like 2 novellas, novelettes, short stories, who knows, collected in like a little tiny book that's like less than 100 pages. It took me a long time to get this copy, because apparently it's never been reprinted at all. So like this is like a copy from like the 1980s or some shit. So yeah, I already went into detail about Yevgeny Zamyatin, so I'm not going to do it again. Next up is Earthsea, the first 4 books by Ursula K. Le Guin. Again, who fucking knows? Basically, this is like one of the most talked about fantasy series ever. Like I constantly hear people talking about it and how great it is. So I'm interested in reading it. And also, Ursula is like one of the few female fantasy writers that like got their foot in the door like pre-2000s. So that's also very interesting. And basically, I think from the back, it says like it's about this guy who slowly starts to learn his powers because he is a goat herd. Then he starts realizing that he has powers, and he gets sent to like this school for wizards. So that's pretty cool. Like, it has blurbs from like Margaret Atwood, Stephen King, Neil Gaiman, Stephen Fry. So apparently, this is fucking phenomenal if all those people like it. I was surprised this was like 4 novels, because it's only like 700 pages, so it doesn't look like a lot for like 4 books together. But hey, I'm not complaining. Look at that spine. It looks so fucking good. Next up, we have The Seawolves, A History of the Vikings by Lars Brownworth. I went everywhere looking for like a good book about the history of the Vikings, and this one was one of the ones recommended. And yeah, it's like a history book about the Vikings. My first work in progress has to do with Vikings a little bit, and like the subsequent books will also be dealing with Viking culture in more detail, so I should probably learn about that some way somehow. So yeah, that's just The Sea Wolves. It's just a non-fiction history book. Not a lot else to say about it. Next is Something Strange and Deadly by Susan Dennard. I remember seeing like this book on shelves back in like 2013, and never got it. I wanted it, but I never got it. And like these new covers look fucking phenomenal, so I decided to take a chance on it. Basically, in this, our main character, her father dies and her brother goes missing. She has to deal with her family's declining financial status or whatever. So she's curious where her brother went, but then shit gets complicated when the dead start walking again. So she has to try and like solve that and find her brother. It's like the concept sounds very interesting to me, because from the front cover, I'm assuming it takes place in like not now, so like a historical period-ish with like zombies and shit. I'm fucking here for that. Also, this cover looks so fucking good. I'm happy that they got a new cover, because I don't think the new cover sold this concept very well, because it was like the early 2010s, when like every YA fiction book had like a girl in like a really long dress, which they all looked very pretty. It just didn't do a great job of like selling what the book was about, you know? I already talked about this before, but it Save the Cat Writes a Novel. I read this, I think, late August, and it's basically just a book about how to write books and like outline them better and all that shit. I read it. It was good. I recommend it. Not a lot else to say, because it's a book about writing. The beat sheet in this is very good. If you don't believe me that I read it, Yeah, I spent a lot of time outlining everything in this book. So, next is Final Girls by Riley Sager. I've never read anything by this dude, but I've heard that all of his stories are pretty fucking good. So, this is a thriller, by the way. I don't read a lot of thrillers, so I thought I should probably change that. Because, fucking, thanks to a book I read in September, I want to write a thriller now. So I should probably read a lot about it so I can know how to write them better. Basically, this book is about 3 final girls, which if you don't know what that is, it's basically like a girl that survives a tragedy in like horror movies. It's like these 3 girls have like survived like massacres, presumably, and they get roped into like some shenanigans. And yeah, presumably, like, not presumably, what the fuck am I saying? Our main character is the final girl, and then people start dying again. She's trying to like figure out what's going on before shit gets too bad, basically. Next is You May Now Kill the Bride from the Return to Fear Street series by R.L. Stine. I haven't read anything like young adult or adult by R.L. Stine before. I read his Goosebumps books, so I'm interested to see how his like young adult, whatever fiction reads like. Also, I'm trash for like this type of cover, which like a lot of his books have. So that may or may not have tried to play a little bit of a part in it, but oops, whatever. And basically in this book, it's between 2 separate time periods of 2 women getting married, and shit goes down because the Fear family is cursed, and this curse is like interfering with them being able to get married. So the back says, 2 Fear family weddings, decades apart, each bride will find that the ancient curse that haunts the Fears lives on. It feeds off the evil that courses through their blood. It takes its toll in unexpected ways and allows dark history to repeat itself. In this all-new Fear Street story, family ties bind the sisters together till death do they part. I've heard that R.L. Stine's writing isn't phenomenal, but like I do have nostalgia for the guy, and like my standards are not that high, and I have like lowered expectations, so I'm sure I'm gonna like this. I mean, it can't be that bad. I mean, come on. Next up is The Witch Doesn't Burn, this one by Amanda Lovelace. This is a poetry collection, I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure what it's about because the back just says, burn whoever tries to burn you. It's just a poetry collection, there's not a lot to like say about it. So, yeah. Next up is The Dark Days Club by Allison Goodman. And basically our main character is trying to like prepare for an upcoming royal debut or whatever, but then her family's maid disappears one night, and she goes off in search of answers. That's when she discovers 2 things. There's an unearthly reason behind all the sinister activity in town. Fucking interesting. And she's the focus of the dashing but mysterious Lord Carlston. She knows she could be in trouble, but she can use Carlston to like find out how her parents disappeared. So I'm interested to see where this goes, because I'm pretty sure there's like a fantasy element to this. So that's like that sinister activity, and like it could go in a lot of interesting ways. So I'm down for that. Now we're gonna go get through a lot of books really fast, because I have the Shadow and Bone trilogy. I got them in a box set, I think like mid-August or some point. Everyone keeps talking about how great the Grishaverse is, so I should probably dive into it. So I am at some point. I know that like the original trilogy hasn't aged that well, but I mean, it's fucking YA fantasy. It can't be that bad. I mean, I've already been like spoiled for the entire series, so I'll just read it and like enjoy it. In these books, basically, the main character Alina realizes that she has magical powers, and she goes to like she's trained with the Grisha, and she realizes that she has cool powers or whatever. From the back of the book, it apparently sounds like this chick falls in love with a guy called the Darkling, which sounds like the literal worst idea for a YA fantasy protagonist, to be in a relationship with the Darkling. That's like dating someone that's called the Murderer. It's like, it doesn't sound good from the get-go, but it became a giant franchise, so apparently it's a great story. I did the math. I know it's cheaper to like buy them together than like book one and having to buy the other 2, so I bought them together. I'm not holding them all up because I already took a picture of them together for Instagram and Twitter. But I bought, I think, 8 out of 9 Night World books by L.J. Smith in like the fancy hardcover edition that I talked about in my beautiful covers video because they were all on sale. And originally I wasn't gonna get any of them until I found one. And like further I found like almost all of them for like hella cheap. So I was like, hell yeah. And I got them all for like less than $40 from like the box set. So it's for like 90 or 80. So I fucking saved money there. And like not only do they look pretty on the outside, it's like the matching spines that I already showed you if you watched my video. The insides are also look very pretty. And I don't think you're gonna be able to see this, but the text inside is also the color of the outside book. This one is like a pink, like a pinkish purple or whatever. So the insides are also a purplish, and it's like that for the other books. So like each of these, the insides are like the same color as the outside, which is pretty fucking cool. I should probably like tell you what this, at least book 1 is about because there are 9 books. I'm not gonna go into detail about all of them, but book 1, basically Poppy is dying and her boyfriend offers her a way to get out of it. And he basically offers her a way to become immortal, presumably. And he shows her the world of Night World. And the series, ooh, surprising. Or like they're vampires, werewolves, ghosts, everything magical. Live in this world. She apparently also finds out that they're like soulmates, and that they're like connected. Their life forces are like connected or something. So that's pretty cool. I don't know how much to say without like spoiling everything for you. So next up is the 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. I almost said the 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, but I didn't. This has been all over booktubes. They probably know about it. But basically, it's about this chick is set to die in this mansion, like this house party or whatever. And this guy is tasked with like being sent into other people's bodies to like figure out who is killing her every night. Which I feel like you just figure out if he went to the killer's body. But whatever, what do I know? Apparently it's like a really good mystery story. And like, again, this concept sounds very interesting to me. So I'm fucking here for it. And I like the cover. So next we have Undead Girl Gang by Lily Anderson. And in this book, our main character, her friend and like one of her bullies or rivals dies, and the town thinks that they did a suicide pact, but our main character thinks otherwise, that they were murdered. So she does magic to resurrect them again, and they don't remember who killed them, but they want to like do whatever they want to do before they die. Well, I think they're alive for like 1 week maybe, and they have to like figure out who killed them and why, just for plot reasons, I assume. Yeah, it sounds really fucking good, and I think everyone I heard talk about it says that it was very good, so hell yeah. Next is The Rise of Kyoshi by FCE. This takes place in the Avatar The Last Airbender universe. I've actually already read this one, and it was 5 out of 5 stars, so fucking good. If you know anything about the Avatar The Last Airbender universe, fucking read this, it's so good. I thought it was gonna be bad, but it's so good. Just read it, it's so fucking good. Basically, this is about the Avatar Kyoshi's life before she became who we know her as in the TV show. This does not, at least as of right now, the series does not include her splitting off Kyoshi Island. This is like the very beginning of like her life. There's already a sequel planned, I think, for like July of next year. So yeah, finally, I have 2 more books from the Old Kingdom series by Garth Nix, which is like Sabriel, The Ariel Person, those books. This is like book 5 and like a novella and like this Garth Nix's other short stories. These were also hella cheap. They were like $5 a piece, so I was like, hell fucking yeah, I'm getting those. They look very nice together. This is like book 5, so I can't like tell you anything about it, like spoiling the other books. So yeah, I'm sorry. So yeah, that was my summer book haul. Thank you for watching.